Hi, my name is Dave Elkington. I'm on the board of Chat Funnels, and I am the founder of a company called InsideSales.com. We've now rebranded to Zant. But today I am super excited to be hosting this interview with Henry Schuck, the founder and CEO of ZoomInfo. Man, I cannot be more excited about this. I've known Henry for a long time. I've seen ZoomInfo grow. I mean, it's gone through several iterations. This is an amazing company. A little bit of background on Henry. He founded this company in his dorm room, at least so the legend goes, back in 2007. And then they've been on a meteoric growth rate since. They're funded by Carlyle and TA Associates, so two of the top investors in the world. They filed for their IPO this summer and have had an amazing success as a public company. They've had 5 acquisitions. And honestly, I can say this, Henry, I don't know if you'll be as bold, but I'll say it. They are revolutionizing the way sales and marketing thinks about data, thinks about CRM, thinks about insights. In my opinion, most importantly, and this is like inside sales, this is a thing that we're very interested in also, but ZoomInfo has created a platform where it's not just about information and collecting information, but they're creating an insights platform that is understanding third-party data in context to like your sourced original data, and then helping you make actionable engagements in both sales and marketing. I'm telling you, keep your eye on this. But with that, I want to hand over to Henry, and I think it's the question that I love beginning any of these things with. It's like, what's your journey, your story? Like, how did you end up here? We have thousands of people watching today. And I think all of them have a little bit of a desire to be like Henry. So first, what led you into it? How did you end up here? And some of the ups and some of the downs.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Dave, and thank you for having me. I'm excited to kick the summit off. So, yeah, I founded the business in 2007. The legend is true. I did found it in my law school dorm, and we did it in a bootstrapped way. My co-founder and I each put $25,000 on our credit cards, and we went out to build a database of, at the time, IT professionals that we could sell to sales and marketing folks who sold to those IT professionals. It was 2007, so we ran straight into the financial crisis. Luckily, we were small enough where you didn't feel sort of the bigger impact of what was happening in the market. But we grew organically and profitably for 7 years. Before bringing any new capital into the company, we brought in a private equity firm in 2014 when the business was already at about a $25 million run rate. It's interesting because a lot of the conversation today is about whether or not you should bootstrap your business, as though every founder has access to VC capital, but is making a decision as to whether or not they want to take VC or bootstrap. We didn't even know how that universe worked. So we only had one choice: to bootstrap the business.
To bootstrap, and I love the way you did it, because I've had and I'm sure you have. I've had countless conversations of young entrepreneurs saying, "Well, I don't have the money. Like, how do you bootstrap? Like, you didn't have the money either. Like, this is on your credit cards, right? Like."
It was on my credit card. For some reason, Chase gave me a $25,000 limit on my credit card. It made no sense at all. But I had this big limit on my credit card, and so we ran it up to pay our first employees and set up an office and get a server and hire a developer to do that work. And it was the only way we knew how to do it. And so what a minimally viable product really was at the time was, what's the minimum thing we could sell to somebody so we can get another month or another 3 months of paying the bills without, having to open a bunch of additional credit cards. And that's, really how we did it. And we invested every dollar that came back into the business in marketing. And so generating appointments for our sellers, which were myself and my co-founder. And then back into the product. So making the data set larger, more robust with more insights. And then we had the opportunity, because one of the things that bootstrapping does for you is it makes you incredibly disciplined around every dollar that you spend. And so that discipline lived on through the business, especially even post institutional money from TA. And we continue to be disciplined about how we spent money. And that gave us an opportunity to go out and do M&A in the market. And so, yeah, go ahead, Dave.
So there's a couple of strategies that you talked about that I actually think are unique and I think people should hear. And it doesn't matter if you're founding your own company or if you're running marketing at an organization. You specialized because look, there was already a market in data, but what you just said is insights and you verticalized, right? You said, and I remember like this is probably like 2007 or 8 when we met at an event, and you were focusing on IT data and you were focusing on insights around IT data. So it wasn't just the data. So I think I would call it a traditional belief would be, hey, this is a red ocean space. Don't go into this space.
Yeah.
But what you did is you said, look, I know it's a competitive space, but we're going to approach it very different. Like, what was that your strategy, and how's it evolved over the last 7 years?
So a couple things there. One, if you're going to get into a space where there's a big competitor or there are multiple competitors, the best way I think to get into it is to build a niche that you can come in at. And so even though there was, when we started D&B and Info USA and a variety of sort of list providers in the market, what we did was we went really deep on IT, and then we surrounded it with insights on IT. So you weren't just getting like a list of companies, you got the CIO, you got it in an org chart, you knew who reported to who. Then we gave you all these insights around like what the company was spending on and what their technology stack looked like. And you coupled that with the organizational chart and the contact information. And Dave, you know this, but early on, somebody told me the most valuable thing you can give a seller is a direct dial phone number. And so we became like laser focused on gathering a lot of direct dial phone numbers for the professionals in our data set. And then you gave them insights, you gave them the way to engage with the folks. And it was a market where even if you were buying D&B or Info USA or whatever else, it was easy for a head of sales or a head of marketing to say, well, yeah, this is different than that. And so we can make the continued investment here.
And the thing I love about that is that focus on direct dial. Like any sales leader would buy that data. And you were the only guys who did it. Like that was like one of your key differentiators. And frankly, I don't think you were the cheapest, but it didn't matter. Like that was such an amazing, breakthrough that I think everybody else tried to chase it. And even to this day, I don't think anybody has a better data set than you guys have around kind of creating that premium value data.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, we wake up every day going like, okay, today we cover 100 million plus professionals, which is basically every knowledge worker in the United States at 15 million companies. How do you keep that data set constantly up to date and accurate? And you're covering billions of data points across that data set. Technologies a company uses, their number of employees, their growth rate, their revenue, who's coming in and out of the organization, how fast are they growing, what are they spending on? And to keep all of those billions of data points up to date and accurate at scale, that's the work that we're focused on today.
Well, and that's a really difficult thing, and especially in context. And maybe we transition a little bit into some of the meat of the topic today.
Yeah.
But people we know traditionally change jobs every 3 to 4 years, which means every 3 to 4 years, whatever data you had was junk, right?
Yeah.
And so, let's transition a little bit into really like how do you leverage all of this information and all of the landmines around kind of in society right now. And it's around selling and data. It's really, really difficult. And I'm going to hit 4 of them. There's compliance, competition, the current COVID environment, and the complexity of like the technology market and the technology stacks that are out there. I mean, all 4 of these make it really hard, but I'm going to just hit some high levels, and I want to just get kind of your take on a couple of them. But number 1 is like GDPR has become such a huge thing. You have CCPA, you have HIPAA, you've got PCI, and then just general like opt-in strategies. So that's just on the compliance side. we're seeing competition blow up all over. And so there's lots of vendors. And then again, COVID, and then just there's kind of a technology glut in the space. So the first thing is like, as you guys think about, I know, like providing value here in this space, what are the things that worries you, and what are some of the things that you do that are different than everybody else? Because again, this is a non-trivial task right now.
Totally. And so I think, look, data privacy is going to be a generational or multi-generational issue for all of us. I think there are a couple ways that we think about data privacy. Number one, and I'll walk through this and then I'll give you a sense for sort of where we think it's going. But number one, about 2 years before the GDPR rolled out, we rolled out what we call the notice and choice framework, which meant that we went out to everybody in Europe whose information we had collected. And we said, look, here's the information we collected on you. It's all your business professional information. It's used by business to business sellers and marketers who are using it to get, and executive search firms and headhunters. They're using it to get in touch with you in a professional way. Here's a link. You can update your information. You can remove it. You can add preferences to it around how you want to be contacted. You could, include your phone number or remove your email address. And we went out and did that to all of Europe. We felt really good about the position that put us in from a compliance perspective. And it allowed us for the next 2 years to go have conversations with Fortune 100 compliance organizations and say, look, your team still needs data to find and to sell your next customer. And this data set is incredibly compliant. Here's all the work we do from a compliance perspective. It's automated, it's on our website, and we got them all comfortable with continuing to do business with us as the GDPR rolled out. So then the CCPA came out in California, rolled out at the beginning of this year and began being enforced in July. And before it rolled out, we did the same thing. We said, look, we're going to go out to everybody in California and we're going to give them notice we've collected their information, the opportunity to do all the same things we gave European individuals. Now, the CCPA does not require that level of notice. In the Attorney General regulations, they specifically say if you collect information not directly from the consumer, you don't have to give notification to the consumer. You just need to have a do not sell my information link that probably a lot of us have seen. But we said, look, we just want to be way ahead on this thing. So we gave it to California, and then we decided to give it to everybody. And so if your information exists in ZoomInfo, you've been sent a notification. It says how we collect it. It says what you can do to have it removed or updated. It gives you the ability to set those preferences. It says who we sell it to. And so we proactively went out and gave all of that notice. And we think that puts us way ahead of the regulations. Interestingly, of all of the types of information that's out there, health information, your browser history, your social security number, your credit card information, we really
social info.
Your social info, yeah.
Right.
And if you watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix, you'll have a deep understanding of this. But of all that information, we actually believe that the least sensitive type of that information is B2B contact information when it's used for business-to-business professional marketing and sales efforts. And it's not just us that believes that. Canada's privacy law specifically exempts this type of information from its privacy law. They said, look, there are a lot of sensitive types of information. This type of information is so important to the economy that we're going to and also much less sensitive than the other types of information.
So let me pause you for a second, because there's some things, there's a lot of stuff. I want to unpack a little bit what we just talked through. So there's a lot of technical things, but there's this principle that you're describing. And as we got ready and we were talking through this before this call or before this this event, there something became like really obvious. Like privacy has become a huge thing as more of our data becomes available online. But at the same time, I actually buy stuff and I want to be informed when I'm buying stuff, right? So like there's this contrast of saying, well, I don't want anybody to know anything about me except when I actually want to buy something. And in that scenario, I want the people who actually have something that I want to buy to know about me. So what you just described is almost like it's a preference management system that I can say, look, these are the things that I'm interested in. I definitely want to buy, and especially in a B2B environment. like there are people whose entire job is to collect information and to buy to buy on behalf of a company. So
Yep.
I think it's not as simple as basically saying GDPR and not GDPR. I think, like you said, there's nuances of B2B. And for those who don't, I think most people on this at this event know this, but business to business purchasing. So when I'm buying on behalf of a business, or if I'm just, consumer buying. So that's one of the nuances.
Yeah, interestingly, the GDPR talks about this. And the way they talk about it is they call it a legitimate interest. And when they say, and if you have a legitimate interest, they do carve out direct marketing as one of those legitimate interests. But they also make clear here that if you are going to use somebody's personal information to do outbound outreach to them, that it be relevant to the person. And so the more you're able to say, look, I reached out to Dave because his company was researching on the internet sales intelligence solutions, and they're the same size and in the same industry as most of our clients. And Dave is in charge of making these types of decisions because he's the senior vice president of sales at the business. Those are the reasons why and the company had visited our website and viewed our pricing page. You couple all of that together and you do have a legitimate interest from a direct marketing perspective to reach out to Dave. And I think that is, and I know, Dave, we're going to talk about it in a second, but that is like what marketers and sellers need to get to, is a world where they can combine their first party data with third party data to really specifically segment their buyers and reach out to them when they're in market for their products and for your products and services.
Okay, so we've got, again, thousands of people that are in sales, in marketing, roles. Actually, we have people, and I think Billy just shared it in his introduction, from all over the world, right? I mean, we have people in Europe, in the Middle East, in Africa, in Asia, in the United States, all watching this live right now. And I think we're trying to figure out, how do we engage and how do we sell to people who likely want to buy? So one of the things that I think are really interesting that you said is, it has to be relevant, but isn't that what we want? Like, I don't want to be marketing to people who couldn't or are unlikely to buy from us. I think that's a style of the past. So that kind of brings this topic of, like, in the last 30 years, marketing has gone through an entire journey, right? I mean, give me your view on where has marketing been, where is it recently, and where is it going?
Yeah. So I think if you think about like the 70s through the early 2000s, the way marketing worked was people were really focused on segmentation and targeting. And they did that with kind of offline tools. You would put an ad in the Wall Street Journal because you wanted to talk to business executives. You would put an ad in Sports Illustrated because their demographic matched up to your products and services. And so you use the places you placed ads by understanding the demographic and placing them there. And then marketing automation and sales automation tools kind of happened in the 2010 or late 2009, 2010, and then through. And what you saw happen there was, all of a sudden, you didn't have to go place an ad to some magazine. You could just cultivate your list of perfect buyers and then go spread your message to them. And what marketers did during that time was they just sort of amassed these large data sets and then just started spraying and praying their outreach. And the technology gave them the ability to do that. And what you see now, and I think kind of what ABM is getting at, is during that period of time between kind of 2009 and today, technology continued to advance in a way that allowed you to be much more surgical with the way you talk to a company and a person at that company, and the way you combine information that you have on that company internally with information that you can pull from third-party data to be really targeted in your outreach. The whole idea of reaching out to the right person with the right message at the right time really comes down to your ability to pull together your first-party data with third-party insights and then be really specific about your outbound messaging to those folks. But it really is not that different than the segmentation approach that you saw sort of in the 70s through 2000.
But here, and I love what you say, because look, in the 2000s, we're all guilty of the spray and pray strategy, right?
Yep.
And it's because it was so inexpensive. Like, so think about like this hyper targeting that we would do in the 80s and the 90s and the 70s. Like, you'd pay for like a Super Bowl ad and you'd pay $3 or $4 million. And you're like, okay, these are, theoretically our exact, target, or Sports Illustrated or whatever.
Yep.
But then like this technology made marketing really cheap. So I think we got very lazy and we're like, send it to everybody. It doesn't cost us anything. But what we didn't realize is it cost us our brand. Like, yep. I remember once we sent candidly an unsolicited email to the CMO of HubSpot. And he sent me a nasty email back saying, I never signed up. And I'm like, no, but I think it's relevant. And he said, oh, it's very relevant, but I never signed up. I didn't want this. And so it was a little bit of a look, he was right. Like, at the end of the day, he was right. I wasn't respecting, he was on a massive list of whatever 100,000 names we had. So what you just said though is super interesting. We're back to targeting. So this ABM isn't a new thing. It's ABM's just targeting, right? Yes. But it's using the technology that allows you to do it at scale, inexpensively. But I think you just said something that I love. It blows my mind a little bit. It's about using insights and being very hyper relevant versus just using technology unintelligently. And I think that's, you're going to say something. So I'm going to stop. Where are you going? I'm super interested.
About the time when you emailed the HubSpot executive, one of the things about that time is you're probably kind of trapped with first party insights in those days, right. Which means like whatever information you have in your CRM or information you have about what someone's done on your website, who you've sent an email to and they've clicked, or whatever notes a sales rep has put into your CRM, that's kind of the universe with which you do targeting. Right. And meanwhile, like we were saying, professionals turn over 100% every 3 to 4 years. And so the people who work at a company today, the vast majority of them will not be there in 4 years. Now, companies change even faster, right? No company looks the same on December 31st as it did on January 1st. They're growing, they're shrinking, they're bringing in new executives, they're adding and dropping technologies, they're acquiring other businesses or getting acquired. And all of that change is happening. And there hasn't been a great way to leverage that, combine it with that first party data to be super relevant when you reach out to prospects and customers. And the fusing of that, I think, is where you get out of the like spray and pray world and you get into something really specific and targeted.
So it's interesting because I think, as we think about data and first party versus third party data, I think that amalgamation, that combination is what creates like real value, but it's really, I think it's difficult to do. And as you kind of are referencing this evolution of marketing tactics, there's been this parallel evolution of, we'll call it CRM, right? There's been this like CRM in the 80s was like, remember Acton Goldmine, right? It was just an online or a digital Rolodex. It wasn't even online, like it was on our computer. Yeah. Then, Benioff comes out and he's like, look, let's take this and let's put it online. And, you also had, Oracle had their version, like there was a bunch of versions, but, Mark made this a big thing, and it was virtually just creating ubiquitous access, but it was just still my data. It was all first party data. So basically I took my business cards, put it in Act. Yep. Now I'm putting my business cards in an online version of Act. And then we're seeing a lot of CRM, and I think traditional CRM, I think it's got trouble, like, because it's more about bringing my first party data in, right? So you've got technologies like MuleSoft or Tableau, where it's like, okay, give me insights into my data, but that's not new. Like those insights into my data, I've had those for 30, 40 years. Now they're good too. Don't get me wrong. Like these tools are as good as they get in terms of like finding insights in my data, but you talked about third party data. So go into that a little bit more.
Yeah, so I think that's right. What you see CRM doing today is shifting from being just purely a ubiquitous access repository of that business card and company data, and then building tools around that to working on being much more of an insights-driven platform. And they're doing that by one, using MuleSoft to let you bring all your data inside of Salesforce, but then also adding Tableau so that you can analyze and build visualizations of that data that may give you insights. Einstein, which is designed to sort of crunch your data in your CRM and give you insights about what's going on with your customers or your prospects or your sales campaigns. And I think that what it misses, and really what ZoomInfo has been focused on providing, is all of that third-party data about your customers and your prospects, all of those changes that are happening that aren't instantly reflected inside of your CRM system. So as you're running Einstein and building a visualization, that not knowing like this company was acquired, this company shrunk, this company just installed a competitive technology, our champion left, having all of that data together really drives, we think, the most meaningful insights. But you see CRM making a shift to being an insights delivery engine, much more so than just a repository with ubiquitous access.
Well, so frankly, we see there's disruption happening in the space, right? I mean, it's the Clayton Christensen disruption pattern. So just as, I think Salesforce disrupted kind of traditional digital Rolodexes, we're seeing LinkedIn trying to move into the market and be a bit of a CRM, right? I think they've even come out and said they are the next generation of CRM. But there's another little thing that's kind of emerged in here is creating automation around engagement. So you've got systems of engagement. I've heard Mark Benioff talk about this. We've heard Satya talk about this. But I think it's even gone a step beyond where it's a system of insight. And I've heard you talk about that. I think as we think through what ABM is, ABM is actually leveraging third-party insights in context of first-party insights. But I don't think people quite know it. I mean, I think everyone's now putting ABM on their marketing platform to say we're an ABM platform, right? I think it's bigger than that. Tell me what if you were to look in the future, and let's have everybody stop, take some notes, because I think this is I think I'm curious to see where you're going to go with this. Where do you see the future of CRM going? Where is, if you're looking around the corner just a little bit, and again, you are one of the hottest, most intriguing companies in the market. Over the weekend, I talked to a couple of folks who said, oh yeah, that company is a company to watch. So you're in the middle of a lot of really interesting innovation. Look around the corner a little bit. Where do you see CRM going?
Yeah. So first, I think one of the things you see with CRM, well, let me back up. Number one, we have to engage with companies and buyers who aren't knocking on our door. There are people out there doing research on your products and services, or who need the products and services that you're building every day, who need to hear from you to know that it's out there. If you look at ZoomInfo's business, one of the key things that jumps out in our S1, or if you talk to any investors, is we have an incredibly efficient go-to-market engine. Our sales efficiency creates a 10x LTV to CAC. We have 30-day average sales cycles. We built automation all around the way we go to market. And the reason why we did that is I got cold called in 2009 by a guy at Infusionsoft who said, hey, come to this meeting. We're going to teach you about the next generation of email marketing. And I said, first, I already do email marketing. I built the whole business to this point on email marketing. I'm good. And he was like, just come to the presentation and maybe you'll learn a thing or two. And it's the first time I ever just went to a webinar. I got cold called to go to that webinar. I went, and that webinar changed the entire future of ZoomInfo, because what we learned from that was the ability to automate many portions of the sales cycle. And so people need that. They need to learn about new solutions. They're trying to make their business better. If you have a product or solution that will add value to them and you can do it at the right time, that is invaluable, and people need to do that to drive the economy forward. And I think one of the things that I've noticed is the focus on the actual market makers, the tactical folks who are going to market every day inside of organizations, has kind of been hazy when it comes to CRM. You look at CRM and you look at these lists of acquisitions, and they're buying CPQ and Tableau and MuleSoft, and all of these Einstein, all of these really interesting technologies, but they're really not what the frontline seller or marketing programs person is using to help them hit their number every month and every quarter and every year. And so I do feel like CRM has become today much more of an IT-led purchase. It's focused on the CIO, and it's also focused on the COO, and it gives the high-level part of the business the metrics and the forecasting and the tools that they need to really get the operation of the business down. And it's a great hub of information for the whole organization. And I think what you've seen over the last few years is not a focus on that frontline seller, on that frontline marketer. And so I don't expect CRM to become that. And that has been an area that we've been focused on, is how do you build a tactical go-to-market operating system that really drives those market makers every single day. The people who come in and go, I need to run these programs, I need to have this activity in order for our company to hit their numbers. That's really the layer that we're focused on. And it doesn't seem like a layer that CRM has been intensely focused on.
Well, so, the co-founder of Inside Sales, a guy named Ken Krog, I think you know Ken, he always says, and to the point where I'm kind of like, yeah, I got it, Ken. But we, as an industry, we don't got it. And it's every sales and marketing campaign starts with a list. Like, and you said something that I'd like to just highlight. I have no more additional insights to it. I just want to make sure everybody hears this. There are people who want to buy your products today that don't know you. And so you've got to somehow bridge this gap of introducing your products and services in a way that is not offensive, that's not, harassing, like I was doing to the CMO at HubSpot. And so they're out there, and there are hundreds and there are thousands of these people.
And by the way, you're going to get knocked around a bit. That. I've had plenty of HubSpot CMOs, punch me in the nose when I've reached out to them. And not everyone is going to be like, oh, wow, this product that you poured your blood, sweat, and tears in for the last 3 years to build, I can't wait to get it in my organization. You're going to get a lot of people who just unsubscribe from your messages, who don't want to talk to you, say they're not interested. But just it is very important for everybody to realize that is how the biggest and best companies still go to market. The largest companies in the world have teams of people picking up the phone, calling into their buyers. They have teams of people, of marketers, trying to identify the perfect universe to send ads to send emails to. And if you can stay focused on figuring out how to craft the relevant universe, that's the work you can do to make sure everything downstream is much more effective. But you got to get out there.
And again, so I'm going to go back though. It starts with a list. Like, you can have the best technology stack in the world. You can have an amazingly architected CRM, but if you don't have the right list, you're wasting your time. In fact, early on, I bet you I went through 3 sales leaders at the beginning of Inside Sales, where I hired this amazing, this guy, resume, awesome. And I had no leads for him. I had no names. And so he's like, they come in, they sell their warm list, and they're like, okay, Dave, what are we going to do? Who are we going to sell to? And I'm like, that's why I hired you. And they're like, no. We need a basis to start from. And so what Zoom is doing, and I love it, I love this, is I'm not buying a list. So there was a list back in 2004, you're going to laugh, called a list provider called Sales Genie. And I paid $100 a month for this thing. And it was just literally the same as a phone book. There was no insights, no context. I hired a kid to start dialing it. And guess what? It kind of worked. So imagine fast forward to today with your platform. I know at Inside Sales, or at Zant, we're Zant now. I know when a new sales leader is hired, that is a perfect time to engage. Exactly. So those kind of insights, or if I just raised money, or if someone just raised money, or those corporate moments, it is those insights. So not only do I have to have the right names, I have to engage in a time, like you said, that people are going to buy. So, and to my understanding, Zoom is leading the way here. I don't know of any other technology, any other platform, or any other CRM that's bringing these third-party insights in and combining it. I mean, your tools like the data pen tool, and like the insights capability, again, it's just, and look, I make no commission here. I just love the technology. Like I'm telling you, I'm sharing this from a position of, I've built companies, like I've built sales organizations. This is the most important part of your technology stack.
It really is core and foundational to everything you do downstream. The first thing you need is to understand your customers and your prospects and the buyers at those companies. And if you don't have that, everything else downstream has sand in its gears. Right. And then the other thing to remember here is like, whatever the first messaging you write is not going to be good enough. It's going to be bad and you're going to have to update it. And what you really should be doing, and I think ChatFunnels does an incredible job of this, is just A/B testing everything. And so every message, every response, if you can A/B test and build a framework of A/B testing across your organization to know which messages resonate the best, whether you're doing it through ChatFunnels from a chat perspective on your website, or you're doing it through email, or you're doing it through your SDRs making phone calls. A/B testing everything is a key part of that, is a key part of just getting better.
And again, so once you have your list and then you've got kind of your engagement platform, again, you have to test everything. So if you were to say, like, where do you see like the tech stack going, in the next 5 years, you think? If again, hey, look around the corner a little bit, see, traditional CRM is dead, traditional, marketing may be evolving. Like, what's the next generation? What's that tech stack look like?
I think the ability to feed all the interaction data back through to get smarter and smarter and smarter about what your next action is going to be a key part of where technology is 5 years from now. And if you think about like what consumer brands are doing around this space or around this topic, or what social media is doing around this topic, every action you take is just an indication of what the next action you might take will be. And they're gathering all that information to predict their next best motion. And I think in B2B, we're just way behind on that. We're just not collecting the data and then analyzing it in a way to make our resources that we have out there and deployed most effective. So I think, look, as we're gathering the list and sending emails and making phone calls and getting replies back and getting no's and yeses, that information being constantly collected and driving the next best action, that's where we'll be in 5 years.
I love it. Now, I think we're about out of time, but I want to circle back to something you said at the very beginning when you started your company on a credit. You and your co-founder, took a huge risk, right? At some point, you're like, what happens if this doesn't work? I've got 25, between the two of you, have $50,000 of credit card debt. To do anything, you have to take risk, right? I mean, so if you were to give, well, I'm going to actually throw an idea out. I think everyone listening to this, if they're not using a ZoomInfo or a ZoomInfo type technology, they need to go try it. Like, take some risk, try, like you talk about this. You should be testing everything. You should be doing some kind of split testing. So I'm going to, probably not appropriate for you, but I'm going to pitch, like, everyone should go give ZoomInfo a shot. In fact, I think we pitched you, I think, Billy Bateman, the co-founder of ChatFunnels, asked if you guys had some kind of offer for every one of this, the attendees of this event to come and try this thing out. Like, I think you guys put something together, didn't you?
So anybody who's watching this, will include the link to a landing page that will auto provision you into a free trial of ZoomInfo. You come in, put in your email address, set up an account, and you'll drive right into a complimentary version of ZoomInfo, where you'll be able to look at your ideal customer profiles, look at companies that you're selling to, get a real good feel for your buyers. And we're making that completely free to anybody who visits the landing page.
This is fantastic. Like, a huge value. Any last thoughts in terms of like how you recommend people move forward? Like, how should, if you're a marketer today, like what would you, one last piece of advice?
Take the time to get real specific about who you want to sell to. Combine that information with available third-party data like intent and insights that you can pull from a service like ZoomInfo. A/B test your way to the right message against that audience, and then feed that loop over and over and over and over again. I think we have one of the best go-to-market engines in the world. And there are still places all over it that I look at and go, that's not very good. That's not very good. That's not very good. And technology is constantly getting better and better and better. So take advantage of what's out there, but you got to be out there with your message in market, getting kicked in the teeth a little bit when you've got the wrong message at the wrong person. But if you're not out there, you can't learn, you can't iterate, and you've got to be out there with your message.
It's amazing, everybody. This is a huge privilege to have Henry come and share these insights. Let's go execute his advice. If you have any questions, what's the best way to reach out to someone on your team or you if they want to learn a little bit more? Is there just go to your website and fill out a form?
Our website, it's ZoomInfo.com. There are many forms there that you could fill out. If you want to reach me directly, I'm just Henry Schuck at ZoomInfo.com. You shoot me an email and I'll get you to the right place.
It's a man who believes in his industry right there. Just gave you his email. It's amazing. Again, honestly, I can't thank you enough, Henry. That was an amazing conversation.
Thank you, Dave.
Excited to go actually do some work based off it. So thanks again.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.